The question came out of nowhere, hanging in the air between us like smoke from a gun that had just been fired. We were driving home from the theater, some forgettable rom-com neither of us had really watched, when Claire turned to me and asked, "What if I cheat on you? Like, what would you do?" I laughed. Because that's what you do when your wife of 6 years asks something so absurd, it can't possibly be serious. I laughed and said, "What kind of question is that?" And she smiled, that small, careful smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, and said, "Just curious. Hypothetically." Hypothetically. That word should have been my first warning. But I was stupid. I was trusting. I was a man who believed that when you marry someone, when you stand in front of everyone you know and promise forever, you mean it. If you want stories that don't just entertain but haunt you, that crawl under your skin and make you question everything you thought you knew about the people sleeping next to you, subscribe now. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story about infidelity. It's a story about how the person you trust most can become a stranger while you're watching. My name is David Chen. I'm 32. I'm a high school history teacher. I've been married to Claire for 6 years, together for 9. And that question she asked in the car, that hypothetical question, it wasn't hypothetical at all. It was a confession dressed up as curiosity. Let me paint you the picture of who we were. Claire and I met in grad school. She was studying architecture. I was getting my teaching credential. We were those people, the couple everyone else looked at and thought, "That's what I want." We finished each other's sentences. We had inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. We stayed up until 3 a.m., talking about nothing and everything. She was my person. I was hers. Or so I thought. We got married young, 26. Everyone said we were rushing, but we didn't care. When you know, you know. That's what Claire said. And I believed her. God, I believed everything she said. The first 5 years were good. Not perfect. No marriage is. But good. We bought a house, got a dog, talked about kids, did all the things you're supposed to do when you're building a life together. But somewhere in year 6, something shifted. Claire started working late more often, started going to networking events every Thursday, started being on her phone constantly, laughing at texts she wouldn't share, angling the screen away whenever I walked by. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I didn't say anything because what was I going to say? You're texting too much? You smile at your phone more than you smile at me? I'd sound paranoid, controlling, like those insecure husbands in bad movies. So I said nothing. I swallowed the suspicion. I told myself I was being crazy. And then came that night. The movie. The drive home. The question. What if I cheat on you? I turned the question into a joke that night. Made some comment about how I'd probably eat ice cream and watch sad movies like a basic rom-com protagonist. She laughed. The moment passed. We went home. We went to bed. And I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, feeling like something fundamental had just cracked, but not knowing what. 2 weeks later, I found the burner phone. I wasn't snooping. Let me be clear about that. I was cleaning out her car. She'd asked me to vacuum it before we took her parents to dinner. And there, wedged between the passenger seat and the center console, was a phone I'd never seen before. Small. Cheap. The kind you buy at a gas station with cash. My hands went numb. You know that feeling? When your body knows something terrible before your brain catches up? That's what happened. I stood there in our driveway, holding this phone, and every innocent explanation I tried to construct collapsed before I could finish the thought. The phone wasn't locked. That detail still kills me. She didn't even care enough to password protect it. I opened the messages. There was only one contact saved. J. No name, just the letter. J. The texts went back 4 months. 4 months of messages I was never supposed to see. 4 months of plans I was never supposed to know about. 4 months of a relationship I was never supposed to discover. Can't wait to see you Thursday. Last week was incredible. He's working late tonight. Come over. I think about you constantly. This is getting dangerous. I should end it, but I don't want to. I read every single message, all 847 of them. I stood in our driveway for 43 minutes, reading about my wife's affair in real time, watching her fall in love with someone else through texts that were never meant for me. The worst part? The person she was in those messages, playful, passionate, spontaneous. That was the Claire I'd fallen in love with. The Claire I hadn't seen in over a year. She was still that person, just not with me. I should have confronted her immediately. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Walk in, throw the evidence in her face, demand answers. But I didn't, because a sick, twisted part of me needed to know more, needed to see how deep this went, needed to understand how completely I'd been fooled. So I kept the phone, took it to school with me the next day, and I read the messages as they came in, watching my marriage disintegrate in real time. Thursday at 8? He has that faculty meeting. Can't stop thinking about last night. You make me feel alive again. I know I should feel guilty, but when I'm with you, I just don't. That last one. I don't feel guilty. That's the one that broke something in me. Not anger, not even sadness. Just this cold, crystallizing clarity that the woman I married was gone. Maybe she'd never existed at all. Thursday came. Claire kissed me goodbye that morning, told me she loved me, reminded me about my faculty meeting at 7 p.m. She was wearing perfume. She'd shaved her legs. She'd bought new lingerie the week before. I'd seen the Victoria's Secret bag she'd hidden in her closet. Assumed it was for our anniversary next month. It wasn't. I went to school, taught 3 classes on the Revolutionary War, graded papers during lunch, attended the faculty meeting at 7 p.m. like I was supposed to. And at 8:15, when I knew she thought I was still at school, I drove home. The lights were off. Her car was in the driveway. Next to it was a black BMW I didn't recognize. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, engine off, staring at that BMW. Part of me wanted to leave, drive away, pretend I hadn't seen it. Go back to the blissful ignorance of 2 months ago when I didn't know my wife was capable of this. But I couldn't, because I needed to see him, needed to see who she'd chosen over me, needed to understand what he had that I didn't. I walked up to the door, my door, of the house I paid half the mortgage on, and I listened, heard laughter, heard music, jazz, something she never played when I was home. Heard her voice, lighter than it had been in months, saying something I couldn't make out. I could have burst in, made a scene, but I didn't. Instead, I did something worse. I went to my car, got my phone, and I called her. Through the door, I heard her phone ring, heard the music lower, heard her say, "Hold on, it's David." Heard the guilty shift in her tone as she answered, all false brightness and practiced casualness. "Hey babe, meeting done already?" "No," I said, watching the door. "It's running late. Probably won't be home until 10. "Oh," a pause, relief in her voice. "Okay, no problem. I'll probably just go to bed early." "Love you." "Love you too," I said, and hung up. I sat in my car and watched the lights come back on in our bedroom, watched shadows move past the window, watched my wife entertain another man in our home, in our bed, less than 2 minutes after telling me she loved me. I didn't go inside. Instead, I drove to a motel, paid cash for a room, and I sat on a bed that smelled like industrial detergent and other people's mistakes, and I made a plan. Here's what most people don't understand about betrayal. It's not the act itself that destroys you. It's the recalculation. Every memory suddenly requires revision. Every "I love you" needs an asterisk. Every moment of tenderness becomes potential manipulation. Your entire history with another person gets rewritten in real time, and you realize you never knew them at all. That night in the motel, I recalculated everything. The late nights, the Thursday networking events, the new lingerie, the gym membership she'd gotten 3 months ago, the sudden interest in her appearance, the distance, the distraction, the way she'd started sleeping facing away from me. It had all been there, every single sign. I'd just been too stupid or too trusting to see it. I went back home at midnight. Her car was alone in the driveway. The BMW was gone. The house was dark except for one light in the bedroom. I walked in quietly, went upstairs. Claire was in bed, reading, wearing the new lingerie I wasn't supposed to have noticed. "Hey," she said, smiling. "How was the meeting?" "Long," I said. "Boring. You know how it is." "Yeah." She put her book down. "I missed you." She missed me. The lies were so effortless, so smooth, like she'd had years of practice. Maybe she had. I got ready for bed, climbed in beside her, let her curl against me like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't been with another man in this exact spot 3 hours ago, like our marriage wasn't a carefully maintained fiction. And I said nothing. For 2 weeks, I said nothing. I went to work, came home, had dinner with my wife, watched TV, made small talk, acted like everything was fine. Meanwhile, I watched the messages on the burner phone pile up. "When can I see you again? Tell me you feel this too. I'm falling for you. I know this is complicated, but we need to talk about what happens next." That last one came on a Wednesday, and the next message, from Claire. "I know. I've been thinking about it too. Can we meet tomorrow?" Thursday. Of course it was Thursday. That night, I broke my silence. We were having dinner, leftover pasta, nothing special. When I looked up and asked, "Do you remember that question you asked me after the movie?" She paused, fork halfway to her mouth. "What question?" "What if I cheat on you? You asked me what I would do." Her face went careful, neutral. "Oh, that." I was just making conversation. "Were you?" I set down my fork. "Or were you testing me, seeing how I'd react, figuring out how much you could get away with before I'd actually leave?" The color drained from her face. "David, what are you?" "Her name is Claire," I interrupted. "She's been married for 6 years to a high school teacher named David. Every Thursday, she tells him she has networking events. Sometimes, she says she's working late. Sometimes, she says she's going to the gym. But she's not doing any of those things. She's meeting someone. Someone named Jay. Someone who drives a black BMW. Someone she's been sleeping with for 4 months." Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. She didn't deny it, didn't try to explain. Just sat there, caught, staring at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "How long have you known?" she finally whispered. 2 weeks. I found the phone, read every message, watched you lie to my face every single day. I laughed, bitter and broken. "You know what the worst part is? That question you asked, you weren't curious about what I'd do if you cheated. You were curious if I'd already figured it out. You were checking if I knew." Tears started sliding down her face. "David, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. It just... Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't insult me with cliches. It didn't just happen. You made choices. Every single Thursday for 4 months, you chose him. You looked me in the eye, told me you loved me, and chose someone else. It's not like that," she sobbed. "You don't understand. We'd gotten so distant, so routine, and he made me feel Alive? I finished. Yeah, I read that text too. He makes you feel alive. Well, congratulations, Claire. You gotta feel alive. And I gotta feel like an idiot. She reached for me. I pulled away. Who is he? I asked. I deserve to know that much. She hesitated. Then, Jonathan, from work. He's one of the partners at the firm. Jonathan. Of course he was a partner. Of course he was successful, powerful, probably drove that BMW like he owned the road. Of course he was. Everything I wasn't. Are you in love with him? She didn't answer. But her silence was answer enough. Then why are you still here? I asked. Why stay married to me if you're in love with him? Because. She struggled for words. Because he's married too. And he's not leaving his wife. And I didn't want to lose you. I thought I could have both, I thought. You thought you could have your cake and eat it too. The laugh that came out of me was ugly. You wanted the stability of our marriage and the excitement of an affair. You wanted me to keep paying half the mortgage while you fucked someone else in our bed. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Claire? Explain it to me. Make me understand how the woman who promised me forever decided that I wasn't enough. You're never home, she exploded. You're always at school, always grading papers, always tired. We never go out anymore. We never talk. We're roommates, David, not lovers, not partners, just people who share a house. So you decided to fix that by sleeping with someone else? Instead of, I don't know, talking to me, suggesting couples therapy, actually trying? Would you have listened? She wiped her face. When's the last time you really looked at me? When's the last time you planned a date? When's the last time you made me feel like I was more than just convenient? Her words hit like physical blows, because she wasn't entirely wrong. I had been distant, distracted, taking her for granted. But instead of telling me, instead of fighting for us, she found someone else. You're right, I said quietly. I failed you. I stopped trying. I got comfortable. But you know what the difference is between us? When I was unhappy, I stayed faithful. When I was lonely, I stayed committed. When I felt neglected, I didn't go looking for someone else to fill the void. I know, she whispered. I know I'm the villain here. I know I destroyed us. But David, I still love you. I do. Can't we? No. I stood up. We can't. Because even if I wanted to forgive you, even if I was willing to try, I'll never trust you again. Every time you're late, I'll wonder. Every time your phone buzzes, I'll wonder. Every Thursday for the rest of our lives, I'll wonder. And that's not a marriage. That's a prison. I walked upstairs, started packing. Where are you going? She followed me, panicked. My brother's. I'll be back next week when you're at work to get the rest of my stuff. File whatever paperwork you need to file. I won't fight you on the house or assets. I just want out. David, please, please don't leave. We can work through this. People survive affairs. I don't want to survive this. I zipped my bag. I want to be with someone who doesn't make me feel like I have to. I walked past her, down the stairs, to the door. David, she called from the top of the stairs. That question I asked after the movie, you never answered. What would you do if I cheated? I turned back, looked at her, really looked at her, for what I knew was the last time. This woman I'd planned to grow old with, this woman who'd become a stranger. I'd leave, I said, because I deserve someone who doesn't need to ask hypotheticals about betrayal. I deserve someone who wouldn't even consider it. I walked out, got in my car, drove away. That was 6 months ago. The divorce is almost finalized. I heard through mutual friends that Claire and Jonathan tried to make it work after we separated. Lasted 3 weeks. Turns out affairs don't translate well into real relationships once the secrecy and excitement are gone. Turns out being someone's escape is different from being their partner. She's tried to reach out a few times, apologize, explain, ask for closure. I haven't responded, because here's what I learned. Closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you give yourself when you decide their chapter is finished. I'm not here to tell you I'm over it. I'm not. Some nights I still wake up reaching for her, forgetting for half a second that she's gone. Some days I still see something funny and think about texting her before I remember. Some moments, I still catch myself planning a future that doesn't exist anymore. But I'm healing. Slowly. Painfully. Honestly. And I'll tell you this. If someone you love ever asks you, "What if I cheat on you?" as a hypothetical question, it's not hypothetical. It's a test. It's reconnaissance. It's them trying to figure out if they can get away with something they've already done, or if you're about to do. Trust your gut. It knows things your heart doesn't want to believe. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever ignored a warning sign because you didn't want it to be true, if you've ever loved someone who made you feel crazy for suspecting them, subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you don't owe anyone your peace of mind, not even the person you promised forever to. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away from someone you love and choose yourself instead. The question Claire asked that night wasn't about curiosity. It was about guilt dressed up as innocence. And the answer I should have given her was simple. If you cheat, I leave. Not because I'm harsh, not because I'm unforgiving, but because I deserve better than being someone's backup plan. And so do you.